Hello friends, welcome to my channel IT Career. I hope you guys are doing excellent in your end, and I think you are watching my videos. So today we'll be discussing on the topic the Google Cloud Global Infrastructure, the regions and zones, and why it is so important to know the regions and zones, right? And before I start today's video, I would like to ask you and request you if you can subscribe the channel, and if you have not done yet, and like my videos. Also click on the bell notification button so that you will get notified once I'll post my future videos. So without wasting time, let us get started. So what is zone and region and multi-regions? So let's go back to our whiteboarding to let you understand what is the fundamental of regions and zones. All right, so this is the world map where Google has presence their data centers and regions. You see that the America, US, Canada, South America, Europe, India, Asia, and Australia. All right, so this the blue dots are represent, they are each region. All right, and each region has 3 zones. All right, so like as for example, this Los Angeles has 3 zones, 1, 2, 3. All right, same way every region has 3 zones. Tokyo 1 zone, 2 zone, and 3 zones. Okay, zone. All right, so now this world is, they divided this entire globe into 3 region. So this is one, which is they call as America, and the second one is Europe, and the third one is Asia Pacific. Okay, so they did not created another geographic specification called Australia, because Australia has only two regions, Sydney and Melbourne. Again, they have 3, each one has 3 zones. All right, 3 zones. There is only one exception, is Iowa. Okay, Iowa is the only region in the world that has 4 zones. Okay, just remember it. And you can ask me why Iowa has 4 zones, and why not the other ones. So when Google started their journey with the cloud, they initially started with 4. They thought 4 will be optimal for any region. Later, when they start building the other regions, they found that 3 zones are enough for them for each region. So they stick with the they stick with 3 zones per region. So currently Google has, let me show you, Google has 34 regions and 103 zones. All right, so let's get back here. They have 34 regions and 103 zones. All right, this is dynamic, this will change, right? They have so many. You see that the future region with the zones with the white dot. So you see that Berlin is on the way, Tel Aviv and Lviv, and there are so many, Doha. Okay, they are on the way. They will become in the future. Okay, so now how the calculation done? 34. So as I mentioned, 34, right? So let us take the calculator. So 34 multiplied by 3 zones, right? So it should be 102. Why it is 103? Okay, now we remember for Iowa we have one extra, right? So 103. Okay, so there are 103 zones available throughout the globe for Google. Okay, so now we'll understand. We now know what are these regions and what are the names: America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. and how many zones we have. Now these zones are how they are connected. I mean, these regions are how they connected, right? So they are connected through CE cables. Okay, they are connected through dedicated CE cables. All right, they are connected through dedicated CE cables, so that they will get better performance, better latency. All right. Now let us understand what is zone. Okay, so we'll understand what is zone. So let us take that picture a little up and we'll understand what is a zone mean. What is zone mean? Okay, so zone is nothing but a data center. All right, what is data center? Just go and look my last video on data center. Okay, what is data center? Data center, again I'm telling you, this is a data center where you keep your all your servers, okay, storage and network in a shared location. This is the building. Okay, this is the data center. Okay, so the zone is nothing but a data center. So Google has how many zones? Google has total 103 zones right now at the moment while I'm making the video. Okay, so now when you decide you want to create a resource in zonal level, or you want to create in the region level, or you want to create in the multi-region level. So Google has given its services, like is zonal services, and regional services and multi regional. Okay, so zonal services, the example is virtual machine. Regional services, app engine. Okay, we are going to have session on each one later in the course. Okay, and multi-regional, there are the databases, there are big data, big query, okay, cloud storage. There are so many. Okay, so these are services Google offer, but virtual machine should be only zonal. Okay, so as an engineer, what is your goal? What, as an engineer or as an architect, okay, cloud architect, your goal is three. You should think always three things in the mind. So once you get a requirement, okay, to create some VMs or any resources, you have to keep it in mind that you have to always think from cost perspective. Okay, second thing is whether your solution is highly available. Okay, whether it has a low latency. Okay, what is those things? I'm going to explain you. Okay, so you have to always keep it in mind. So now you have a task to create a virtual machine. All right, you have a task to create virtual machine. So you have a task to create 4 virtual machine. Okay, as I mentioned, virtual machines are zonal. Okay, it should be created in a particular zone. So you decided, first of all, which region. Suppose you are in the US region. Okay, now in the US region also, America region, and they call it America. Okay, like you are in the US country and you are in the, right, so definitely you are in the America region, right? So now it also depends on which part of US you are in. So suppose you are in the New York region, right? You are in the New York, your company is in the New York. Okay, now you have to decide New York. Okay, now it will be decided that where you are going to create your resources. So your region should be picked on that one. So the nearest to the New York, which location it is? Sorry, it is. We'll go back here. So West Virginia, North Virginia, South Carolina. These are all East Coast, right? So out of all these, Columbus, North Virginia, and South Carolina, out of these you are going to choose. Again, you are not going to choose like simply by looking into this one. Okay, there is a calculator. I mean, how to decide your region. It will be calculated like that. So like for example, let me show you. Okay, so Google Cloud Region Picker. Just click on that. Okay, so now it will take you here. Okay, Cloud Picker, Region Picker, I mean. So you see that my current region is a US East Coast, I mean, and it is suggesting me to take Iowa. Okay, and next one is it's suggesting North America and US West. Okay, why? There are three criteria. One is low carbon footprint, lower price, and lower latency. Okay, so as I mentioned before in my whiteboard, as an engineer, you have to always look from this perspective. Okay, cost, high availability, and high latency. I did not mention about carbon, but this is also part of. So what is the carbon footprint? Google has a target. I mean, all the data center Google has, or any other cloud vendor has, to run the data center, it needs enormous energy, right? I mean, electricity. So Google has a target to 2030. By 2030, it needs to reduce the lower carbon footprint. Okay, so you know about more carbon footprint. You just go here and understand what is this. Okay, if you click here, it will give you. So again, I'll give you all this links and all for the Google Cloud Picker and every other thing. So you see here, so not important and important. So whether you have how it is choose, right? So whether carbon footprint is important to you, so let me keep it for not important. Okay, so you see, I will just show you how this is changing. Okay, so you see that US Central Iowa, it is giving 3 carbon emission thing. Okay, so if I'm saying not important, see that US Central is gone from the list. Okay, and if I say lower price, okay, is important, so you see that definitely everyone wants lower price and everyone wants lower latency, right? So you see that how it is changing. And if I say latency is not a matter to me, okay, so and also lower price, see it is changing, how it is changing. Okay, so based on that you pick your region, and if you click on each region, it will give you what is the carbon energy, free energy, 64%. Like for each region it will give a different number. Okay, and it will also give you a Google Cloud Compute Engine pricing per vCPU per hour. All right, so if you want to see more, like it is choose my if it is selected my current location, right? So let me take an example of India. Okay, so India, if I click on that, so you see that for India it has given me Europe region. Now you can ask me, for India it should have given me Mumbai or Delhi, right? But it is in the second choice. Why? Because Europe has a carbon emission, but I mentioned here, right? I don't need the carbon emission thing, right? So you see, if I increase it, so it will give me India is gone from the picture because India doesn't have that thing right now. Okay, carbon emission thing. So let me keep it like this. And if I say lower price and lower latency, so definitely see, whenever I say latency, so and if I'm in India, as I choose in India, right? So if I say a lower latency, let's see, it became the Asia South one, and Asia South to Delhi and Mumbai got first preference and second preference. You see that? Because if I'm in India and if I create the data center, or I mean the zone or region in away from me, like in America or Europe, then definitely the latency will be more or high. And what is latency? How to understand what is latency? Let me tell you. Latency is nothing but is a concept that okay. Suppose this is okay. This is a region called South Carolina. Okay, South Carolina or North Virginia. Okay, North Virginia. Oh, North Virginia. Okay, and now it has 3 zones: zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. Remember that the difference, I mean the distance between each zone in each of the region should be 100 miles or more okay. What is the reason? The reason is, you can ask me what is the reason is, if something happened to this data center, this zone, so that you have other zones available to take care of the thing, right? Your data center. Okay, that's why it should not be so close, so that if something happen, disaster, so both the regions will go away. Okay, so at least 100 miles or more. Okay, so this is Virginia, not Virginia region. It has 3 zones, and so now if I ask you to create a VM here, okay, and another VM we have to create. Now if I create the other VM in maybe Europe region, London region, okay, London region, and if I create, it has also same zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3, right? If I choose to create in zone 2, like second VM, do you think, I mean, or maybe another option, if I have an option to create here, so as an engineer, what do you think? That the travel between these 2 VM is more, or travel between this and this more? Definitely this, right? This will be, so more distance, more latency. More distance, more latency. Latency is what? Latency is nothing but whenever you request something, okay, you should get the result back, right? Like you ask something and you should get the result back, okay, that it got the notification. You should get back notification. So this return back of the it takes time because of the distance. That's why this is called latency. So that's why the latency is more distance, more latency, more time to response, and less distance, less latency. Okay, so always better to create the resources adjacent to each other. Don't create into 2 regions and which will make our network more latency. Okay, so this is the, now you can ask me, okay, then why Google is suggesting, giving us opportunity to have regional and multi-regional. So actually this is based on our requirement. So we have to decide first, what do we want? What is our requirement? Our requirement is cost. Our requirement is highly availability. What is our requirement? Our requirement is cost or our highly availability. Okay, so if we want more high availability, we don't worry about the cost, then go ahead and create in region 1 and region 2 multi region or region 3. Okay, there are services available like which you can create in multi region. Okay, where latency is not a factor for you. Okay, if it is not a factor for you, but if latency is a factor for you, then you never go with multi region. All right, if latency is a factor. Okay, so we have to decide ourselves what is the necessity. So as I mentioned before, Google has services which is giving regional and multi-regional. So like App Engine, Google App Engine is one of the example of regional. So in this case, App Engine, we are going to discuss more about App Engine in a specific lecture, but I'm giving you an high level idea that App Engine is nothing but a PaaS service from Google, which is a platform as a service. Okay, so you don't need to build your infrastructure like VM and all. Okay, you just deploy your code into Google. Google manage its own infrastructure for you in the background, so it doesn't matter where it runs, which region it runs, they will give you optimal performance. All right, and there are multi-regional services like these databases, which cloud storage and everything. So they are multi-regional. Okay, so if something goes wrong, what happened? If in a region, in a multi-region, if one data center goes down, one region goes down, something, suppose you created in a Dallas region. If this Dallas region goes down, and another you created, Finland. Okay, so your application in here 1, 2. So if this goes down, then still this Finland is there to take care of that one. So that is called multi. Although there is a latency here problem, but you are okay with that one. Okay, like as I mentioned before. All right. Okay, now let us concentrate on some theoretical part. We have done with the discussion on the absolute practical and all the whiteboarding. So what are infrastructure? Google infrastructure. Google is dedicated to building. Google is dedicated building infrastructure that it lets you modernize and run your workload and connect with more users, no matter where they are in the world. Okay, you understand? Like if they are modernizing your infrastructure, as I mentioned before in my previous video, you have data center in the on-premise. Now Google has given opportunity, and other clouds also, to modernize your application or infrastructure into their cloud and run your workload in their infrastructure and connect more users. Doesn't matter how many, and doesn't matter where they are in the world part. You once they have internet and everything, you can access the infrastructure. Part of this infrastructure is their extensive global network, which provides best-in-class connectivity to Google Cloud customer and edge network. All right, edge network, which lets you connect with ISPs and end users and customers. So there is a edge network. Edge network is nothing but they have before their data center, the zones, they have edge network, like with the they got it through ISPs. ISPs are nothing but internet service providers, like like in India, Vodafone and or Airtel. In US it is Verizon, AT&T, right? So they are the internet service provider. With the help of them, they have the edge network. Okay, regions are independent geographical areas that consist of zones. So each region consists of multiple zones. As I mentioned before, each region equal to 3 zones. All right, and with the exception of Iowa had 4 zones. All right, Now, zones and regions are logical abstraction of underlying physical resources provided in one or more physical data centers. So they are in the zones are they have the physical data center. Okay, these regions are designed for fault tolerance and high availability. All right, these regions are definitely designed for what? Fault tolerance and high availability. Like fault tolerance, why? So that if something happen to your infrastructure, so your application in the region, so that it will be fail over to the other immediately without any disruption. And highly availability, as I mentioned in my whiteboarding already. Even every business needs a high availability, right? The system should not go down. This data center may be owned by Google and listed by Google Cloud location in the page. They may be leased from the third-party data center provider. Okay, regardless of whether the data center is owned or leased, Google Cloud selects data center and design its infrastructure to provide uniform level of performance, security, and reliability. All right. So irrespective of if it is a Google's own data center or it's leased from some other third party, doesn't matter. They design it like that so that they should give uniform level of reliability, security, and performance. There will not be suppose if you decided to go with a Google Cloud and you got a choose a region where and a zone where it is managed by a third party of the Google, doesn't matter. Google manages all those things. The standard for Google is same. Okay. Now, what is zone? A zone is a deployment area for Google Cloud resources within a region. Just remember these things. Okay, this may become in your interview or in your examination. Okay, certification. So zone is a deployment area where whenever you want to deploy something, okay, anything, any services like VM or any other resources, it will be deployed in a zone. All right, it is a deployment zone. Okay. Because zone is the data center I mentioned before, right? Deployment center. Zones should be considered a single failure domain within the region. Okay, so you have a region, okay, and you have a zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. I all these things I'm already mentioned. Okay, so zone should be a single failure of within a region. So if this fail, this should still go on. This should still go on, right? So the distance between should be 100 miles. I already mentioned at least 100 miles. Okay. To deploy a fault-tolerant application within a high availability and help protect against unexpected failure, deploy your application across multiple zones in a region. Okay. So to deploy your fault-tolerant application, like anything, any application like your e-commerce application with high availability, definitely you have a business, so you want to deploy your application in a high availability, right? High availability zone, right? So Google is asking always to have create the resource in a multiple zone. So create in here and create another VM1 here, VM2 here, and VM3 here. Okay, so that one goes down, you have other are available. Okay. Okay, the interconnect communication between the zones within a region under 5 millisecond. Okay, under my 5 intercommunication. Okay, within the zones. Okay, to protect the loss of entire region due to natural disaster, have a disaster recovery plan and know how to bring up your application in an unlikely event that primary region is lost. Okay, so always plan for DR. Always plan for DR. What is DR? DR is disaster recovery. So if any disaster happen in your in your primary region, suppose region 1 maybe like US, and region 2 is Europe, something happened with the US region, so that you have the other region to back you up. Maybe in the US you have it is in Oregon and this is in Columbus. Okay, so one goes down, you have another. So this is called disaster recovery planning. Always have plan. Multi regions are large geographic areas that have 2 or more regions, which allows Google services to maximize redundancy. So if you have, like, as I mentioned, US and Europe, so these are multi-region, right? So this will allow you to maximize redundancy. So if something goes wrong with your one region, you have another region to take care of your services. Okay. Another thing, remember that Google's own services, like in Gmail, every day do you use a cloud every day? Do you know we use everyday cloud, like our Gmail, right? We use Gmail every day. We use Google Drive, okay, Google Photos. These are all Google's product, their own product, and these are all SaaS solution. Okay, like SaaS solution is service. Software as a service. All right. So these are all in cloud, and every day you are accessing this one. So Google, run their own services, own product in their own infrastructure. They don't have any specific infrastructure for their own product. Okay, whatever the infrastructure they give you as a cloud customer, they are also using the same thing. All right. Now let us go to learn about what are zonal. We already discussed about it. Zonal resources. What zonal resources operate and within the single zone. Zonal resources operate within a single zone. Okay, zonal resource definitely is zonal resource, so it is a single zone. Okay, zonal resources outage can affect some or all of the resources in that zone. Only that something happened to it will be happening in that zone. As an example of zonal resource is a compute engine virtual machine. This is the main component, main product of Google Cloud or any other cloud, virtual machines, compute engine virtual machine. In Amazon it is EC2, right? Everybody knows Elastic Compute Cloud, and in the Azure also it is there, they call it as a virtual machine. So if something goes wrong, it will happen to the specific zone only. Okay. The regional resources. Regional resources are resources that are redundantly deployed across multiple zones within a region. So it will be deployed within one region. There are 3 zones, right? It will be deployed into multiple zones. For example, App Engine application and regional managed instance group. Okay. So App Engine is, I already mentioned, is one of the regional resources. This gives them higher availability and related to zonal resource. Definitely it is higher availability, right? In the zonal one, if something happened to the zone, in zone goes down, your data center goes down, your VM goes down. In a regional one, if zone 1 down, zone 2 is available to take care of your resources. And last but not least is multi-regional resources. I already mentioned it, but I am here talking about the theoretical part again. Multiple Google Cloud services are managed by Google to be redundant and distributed across region. Okay, so what are those? These services optimize availability, performance, and resource efficiency. So they will give you highly availability and performance and resource efficiency. As a result, these services require trade-off between either latency or consistency model. So as I mentioned before, the big table, cloud, DLP, Spanner, these are all databases, cloud storage, these are all, DB related. Okay. So what they said here, trade-off with the latency. So if you have, as I mentioned before, if you have a region 1, like in US East 1, okay, region, and you have a region 2 in Europe 1. Okay, so now you have suppose the spanner service here, and you have here, because it is a regional service, right? So what will happen? You will get highly availability. If something goes wrong here, you have in another region in the world, it is available, but you may trade off with the latency because they are in the different region, so latency will be more, right? It will be more. The response coming from the communication between the two regions will be more, right? So that is the these are the multi-regional resources. I hope you understand all the zones and region concept, right? So I came back to the first whiteboard where I drawn all the total zones and regions available with the geographic world map. Okay, if you have any question, any doubt, you can write in the comment section. I am always there to answer. Okay, with that said, let me wind up to this